If you feel uneasy, unsure, or off just before committing to someone in a relationship, or even bigger, a marriage, it's not just nerves. It might be your gut trying to save you from the wrong relationship. So I'm going to give you the two biggest signs you're about to commit to the wrong person. Your first dead giveaway sign is when you're second guessing not just them, but yourself as well, right? It doesn't have to be both, but if you're questioning either, they're not the right person for you right now. So if something about them isn't sitting right, or you're not sure if like making this decision with them as being your person is the right call to make, then it's probably the wrong call to make, right? If something about their vibe feels off, or there's information that you don't feel so at peace or at rest about when it comes to them. Maybe you guys have had conversations around deep value type of stuff, and you haven't really been thrilled about their responses or their answers. You love a lot of things about them and they're great and you enjoy them so much. And their answers weren't bad around these serious topics, but they just left you a little uneasy with feeling reassured that what you value most will be, contributed to, or will be honored, or they will, agree with it as well, to where you can have that happiness you require, right? Because you can't live happily in a relationship where what you value most is not honored or represented or supported by your partner. If you guys are clashing against with that, then it's going to be a recipe for disaster. And ultimately, you're going to have a painful breakup at some point, because one or the other has to give. Either you have to shift who you are and mold and conform to what works for them, or they have to do that for you, in which one of you are not living your truth and being who you're designed to be, which makes you unhappy, right? Or you're always at odds with each other, always bumping heads and never being able to see eye to eye around the things that matter most, to where you start seeing each other as the enemy or the ops, right? The problem in the equation, not the person that helps add to your peace and happiness. So if you have doubts about them, it's a sign that something's not right to move forward with them. I mean, think about it. You're about to commit yourself to this person, whether exclusively in a relationship sense, to where you start building together, or that huge step of committing to them for the rest of your life, right? I mean, huge deal. You need to feel as sound and at peace as possible about this. And if you're not, then those things need to be addressed immediately before you ever decide to cross that barrier of commitment, and at whatever level that commitment is for you at this stage. So that means you need to have a conversation, dialogue, dive in about it. Just call out the things that you are not feeling so good about, why you're not feeling good about them, and what you would like or what you would need in order to feel good about them, or at least a level of understanding, or find a compromise space. Something needs to happen to make sure you feel good before you commit to anything, because here's the piece. You can't fully commit to a relationship until you actually feel committed internally as much as you want to feel committed mentally. Now, it's not just about that doubt about them, right? You have doubts about them, that's huge, but it's equally just as important if you have doubts about yourself in this situation. See, sometimes when we're committing to someone in a relationship, it has nothing to do with that person we're committing to as to why we're second guessing things and we're feeling uneasy or off or not feeling so sure about it. A lot of times it's because, whether consciously or subconsciously, we know deep down we have some things we need to work out more, and we feel like we're about to screw this up. If I commit to this, relationship, I don't really truly feel prepared, right? Or maybe you have some commitment issues. Maybe commitment to you means a recipe for disaster, because growing up, all you saw was relationships that crashed and burned, and they never worked out once they became, official, or once they got married or whatever. And it was this, different level of responsibility or tied into each other's lives, and it always didn't work out. So therefore you view marriage as like this negative thing that just leads to pain on the other end. That's something you got to work through or work out before you continue forward with this person. Or maybe you're just not sure you can fill the shoes of someone's husband or wife, or their boyfriend or girlfriend. You don't feel like you can take on that responsibility. Heck, maybe you're at a stage in your life where you don't want to take on that responsibility. That feels like stress to you. If committing to someone and what comes along with that with the honor and the respecting of what that union is going to be is something that feels like off-putting to you, you're not ready for that commitment. Do not do it. You're setting yourself up for failure and your partner, right? And especially if you haven't had that deep down little scary, truth for you that you're thinking, and maybe a lie about yourself, but maybe you feel it's a truth that, oh, wow, this person's so awesome and amazing. You can't really truly understand why they are comfortable investing everything into you. Maybe you second guess whether you feel like you're good enough for them or something like that, right? To where you're standing there at that break point before you go and you cross that threshold and you understand what it means to go and commit to them and go into that journey. Now you have to rise to the occasion. You have to live to the standard that matches them, right? And that can feel like a lot of pressure and weight if you're not ready for that. And here's an even bigger and more common obstacle that someone faces whenever they have doubts about themselves and the commitment, not about the person they're committing to, which is if you're not fully healed yet. If you know deep down you got some issues, some baggage still, and you know it's going to sabotage the relationship, and you're scared to death that you're going to actually do that and mess things up and ruin the best thing to happen to you, then you're not ready for that commitment yet. But I understand the clash in the middle, the internal conflict and battle that happens at that point, right? Because you're like, oh, I finally found this great person and they love me to pieces, but I don't feel like I'm going to do right here because I have these things I got to work through. I can't fully trust completely yet, right? I know I have issues with, being empathetic to someone else's, things they're going through, their emotions, right? There's issue on my end that's not going to fully make this work the right way, right? But you don't want to lose that great person. Understandable, but you're hurting you both if you try to move forward with it when you don't feel completely solid on your end and you feel like they're a solid investment. And look, even worse, what if they're great in so many ways, but you still question things about them and you're questioning things about yourself? Then now we're really setting ourselves up for failure. So even in that kind of scenario, right, to where it is more on your end and not to do with them, conversations necessary to be had, right? Hey, I don't want to lose you. I don't want to let go. But here's where I'm at right now. If you're okay with it, can we slow things down just until I do catch up and get there? Can you help me work on the things I want to be better in so I can feel secure in my own right that I'll be able to do my part towards you in a committed relationship? Can you work with me there? Just as much as you ask them to work with you on the things that you're concerned about with them. And if there's a concern on both ends, then yeah, have a dialogue about that. How can we support each other to make sure we get to that space before we make that commitment, right? Now, you don't have to wait till things get perfect to go across that threshold, but it's very important to make sure it's healthy and whole, right? It's different to come into a relationship or commit to someone whenever you're unhealed and you're not whole and there's voids that needs to be filled in. There's things that needs to be addressed and resolved, because that's going to just turn into resentment and all sorts of things later down the road, versus you're healthy and whole, but you're still a human being that has flaws. You're always going to have that. You're always going to have your differences that are going to rub against your partner and be friction along the way, but it should never be, potentially toxic things that leads to a destructive relationship versus one that just faces challenges like any other one does that you learn to grow through and you get stronger through. So let's make sure we're on the same page. Someone being the wrong person for you, at least right now in the season you're in, is not always a byproduct of them not being ready or them being the issue and all these things. Sometimes if you're not ready, then they can't be right for you if you're not ready and right for them. If anything, they're going to be the worst thing for you, right? Because you're going to regret maybe going and feeling like you're ruining the situation for them, or you did them wrong and you wind up kicking yourself more. Now, they can be a great learning lesson for you, but if you're not right for them, then they're not right for you at this season. So whether you're second guessing them or yourself or a bit of both, either way, you're not grounded in this choice. And real commitment requires clarity, not emotional chaos. So if your soul doesn't feel in it and it feels off in some way, do not move forward. Now, the second big sign that you're picking the wrong person is when you catch yourself editing yourself to be chosen. So if you have to answer differently than you typically would, act differently, or even shrink yourself to avoid messing things up, that's not connection. That's self abandonment, right? If you have to aboard ship and let go of who you are, conform or fit yourself into this square peg into the round hole, and put yourself in this frame or operate in this way that is not organic and doesn't align with you, right? In a way that you believe in, especially, then this is not the right person. And notice I said that you believe in, because it's an amazing thing to find a partner that makes you want to be the better version of yourself and pulls parts of yourself out of you that you haven't been cultivating on your own. That's a beautiful thing. Run with that. If someone makes you want to be better and you're being a better version of yourself when you're with them, absolutely keep fueling off of that. Now, don't binge on them for that, right? You should be taking the reins and trying to champion for your own growth in that way on your own. But it's a beautiful thing if they inspire you to do that. Awesome. No, I'm talking about if you feel like you're slowly, little drip by drip, suffocating yourself inside in order to be with this person because you think they are a great individual, right? That's when it's the wrong person, because they can't be right for you if they're awesome, but you don't feel awesome inside of your own skin by being with them, right? You should never, ever have to adjust and be someone new to be with someone. They have to either love you for who you are, as you are, or not. That does not mean they have to accept complacency of poor habits and behaviors of you, right? But it means we're all going to have flaws. We're all going to have different personality sets and all the things. And if they can't love or don't love you and embrace you fully for who that person already is without you having to shipshape to make sense for them, then they don't really love you. They love the version of you that you're presenting to them. Big difference. And so you got to really ask yourself, if you're going to commit to someone in a long-term relationship or for the rest of your life in a marriage, do you want to commit to someone that you can't just be you with? Do you really even feel loved the way you want to feel loved if you're only loved for what you present to them or how you can operate in a way that they like versus for who God made you to be? The right person makes you feel safe and encourages you to show up fully as you are, right? The wrong one makes you feel awkward and weird and like you have to walk on eggshells from the beginning. So if you can't be unapologetically yourself from the gate, from the start, then ask yourself, what am I really committing to? Like, really answer that question for yourself. And it'll change the whole dynamic on what you're about to do next with this decision if you're at that point in this dating experience or even relationship experience. So if your body's uneasy, right, you're feeling that tense, that anxiety, or you feel tight about the situation, or your truth feels unsafe, right, you're either not ready or they're not right for you. Either way, you do not move forward until you feel sure about both. Now, if that's something you need help with, if you're in that space, or just figuring yourself out fully so that you don't second guess yourself in your decision making and whether you're ready or not, or whether they're right or not for you, then email or DM me the word coaching and we will get to work as long as you're truly ready to put that work in. Let's get it.